Hello everyone, X-Wall-Kill Bethelite here. And I want you to envision a child stuck in the first grade where there is nothing you can do to make this child's mind be able to think on a higher level. They're just stuck. They're psychologically stuck in the first grade. And imagine that happening year after year after year, where this child is 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 60 years old, psychologically stunted to the point where they are stuck in the first grade. Their mind isn't capable of thinking critically. They can't think beyond first grader, what my teacher says is right. This is the situation with Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's common sense to most adults, most people whose mind are processing information, most people whose mind is processing information on an adult level. It's common sense that if you're a part of a religion and it falsely predicted the end of the world, it's time to pack up and pick a different religion. It's time to pack up a different church. This is common sense. If this religion has done something of that effect multiple times, where they have falsely predicted the end of the world in 1975 and falsely predicted the general time frame of the end of the world with the generation of 1914 that wasn't supposed to pass away. If this is a continuous thing, it is common sense. It is 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 2 is 4, 5 and 5 is 10. It's being able to think on that simple of a level to be able to figure out that a religion that keeps falsely predicting things probably may not be the religion you want to rely on. Common sense. But you're dealing with people who don't have the capacity of figuring out basic things. Their mind is literally stunted. Their thought process is stunted at a certain level. Can you imagine you as a person? Because a lot of us have woken up from Watchtower. We've moved on to different things. And over time, maybe even some of the things that we decided to pursue after Watchtower, we may have moved on to other things. Most people, or at least a lot of people that I know, are constant growth, different things. You're getting into different things, right? You're not stuck on the literal same thought pattern your entire life. Me personally, I have tried different diets, trying to find different things that work best for me. I've gotten into different forms of entertainment, different types of exercise. I have gotten into all kinds of different types of debates and debate forums. And then I switch it up. I get tired of that and go on to something else. Jehovah's Witnesses are on that level where they don't grow. They don't grow from, here's magazine, I need to hand out magazine, and then that will save the world. They don't grow from that. Most of us couldn't even imagine still being in the same mind frame that we were in first grade. In first grade, I was playing with toys, and I thought that at night I had to stay in my bed until the sun came up, because if I stuck my leg down or my arm down, there was a monster under my bed that was going to grab me and pull me under. Could you imagine now, as an adult, me still thinking the same thing, as ridiculous as that was? There were times where I was in bed and I had to go to the bathroom. There were times where I was in bed and I wanted some water. There were times where I was in bed and there was various reasons I wanted to get up. But for the most part, back in first grade, I wouldn't even move, because I was afraid that the monster under my bed might hear me and come off from up under the bed and come pull me under. We grow from these childish thoughts, right? We grow from things like that. We get to the point where we look back on some of the things that we used to think and laugh about it because it's so ridiculous. All of us have thought of things, all of us have believed things that were ridiculous. But most of us believed things that were ridiculous when we were kids. The problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is their bodies have grown to adulthood, but their minds, their brains are still on the first grader. There's a monster under my bed. I got these magazines. I need to pass out these magazines. End of the world going to come. Save everybody with Watchtower magazines. Like, as ridiculous as these two thoughts are, monster under the bed, magazine printing company that falsely predicted the end of the world is going to save the world. As ridiculous as these two thoughts are, the only difference is I grew in my understanding. Once I figured out that there wasn't anything, that was highly unlikely that there was a monster under my bed, I stopped being afraid of it. There wasn't anything where, there's just this indoctrination and, I'm just incapable of figuring out that there's no monster under my bed. No, it got to a point where it was just ridiculous to think that. You got all these other people, and you have never heard of anybody being yanked under their bed by a Yeti. As a kid, I didn't know that. But as you grow up, you can look at the news and realize there has never been a report of somebody getting yanked under their bed by a giant Yeti and eaten. Just common sense is able to figure out that foolish things are foolish. But what Jehovah's Witnesses are, they are that kid in the first grade that we're trying to wake up, because they look like they're adults. They look like they're grown. And we assume that a grown adult has to have the same cognitive abilities as anybody else, any other adult. But what has happened is Watchtower has dulled their thinking, and I'm not joking. Watchtower has dulled their thinking to the point that there are some mental abilities that have not grown beyond first grade. There are some mental abilities that have depreciated to the point of going back to the way it was in first grade. We know the human mind develops, right? There's a such thing as a person that is under 18 is not viewed as having the mental capacity of being able to make adult decisions, that their brain has not developed to that point yet. There's proof the brain develops. It grows to a certain point. It doesn't just start off with certain abilities. The whole school system proves that. We start off in kindergarten. We can't start off in high school. It's not that we just decide we want to waste years and years and years starting people off in kindergarten for no reason. No, that's where their brain is. Sitting on the floor, sitting on the carpet in the middle of the floor, singing songs. That's where the brain is at that point. It takes exercise and focus. You're going to school, you're learning, you're building and building on your abilities to do math equations. You're building on your abilities to solve problems. You're building on your abilities to figure out social situations. The brain has to evolve and to develop to the point of being able to distinguish truth from falsehood. There are some people who do not have this ability on the same level as your average adult. We've heard of the people who get a phone call, right? And the person on the phone says, "Hey, you won Publishers Clearinghouse." I can vouch for this personally. This has not happened to me, but I have seen where this has happened to people. You get the phone call. "Hey, you won Publishers Clearinghouse." Now, a lot of people would be skeptical from the start. Some people aren't. The person starts to celebrate, "Oh man, I won Publishers Clearinghouse." And then they say, "There's one thing that we need you to do. We need you to make some purchases and send those items to this address. The reason for it is because we have to balance out your taxes, right? You're about to win all this money and you need to do this for your taxes because you'll be able to use your receipt for these items. And matter of fact, we'll do it for you and we'll make sure all your money is not taken in taxes." It works. It works. Scammers will call person after person after person. "Hey, you won Publishers Clearinghouse. The only thing is, we need you to send a money order to this address to cover your taxes." And people do it. I've seen it personally where people do it. Now, oftentimes this happens to elderly people. The reason I bring this up is because you might think, okay, well, my relative or my friend had already progressed in their thinking beyond first grade. So, Marcus, what do you mean Watchtower has them thinking excuse me. What do you mean Watchtower has them thinking on the level of a first grader? Let me explain. So, can a person progress past first grade where they learn to think as an adult and then their minds be stunted to the point where they go back to that level of foolish thinking, not being able to distinguish danger from not something that's not danger, not being able to distinguish somebody lying to you from somebody telling you the truth? You know how easy it would be to trick a kid into, I don't know, paying more money for something than what they should? It'd be real easy. Well, the proof of that is that you have elderly people who may have been really sharp as adults, but then that mind, the brain, deteriorated to the point where scammers are now able to take advantage of them. We've heard of a lot of people in the nursing homes who were sharp as a knife when they were younger. And their brains eventually got to the point where they're back thinking as a child again. And almost anybody could take advantage of them and take their money. That's one of the reasons why the seniors are at risk of scams. Because scammers know this person's cognitive thinking ability is not it's not as sharp as it used to be. That's what Watchtower does. It dulls the thinking. And there are elderly people that do exercises, mental exercises, to keep their minds sharp. There was an elderly woman that I recall at Bethel, and she would do all kinds of puzzles. She had learned different languages, and people at Bethel would speak to her in those languages to cause her to keep having to use her mind. As a matter of fact, instead of having meals with other people that were in the infirmary, they had her have meals at the regular lunch table to speak to people whose minds were sharper to challenge hers. Now, she still needed help as far as doing her Watchtower study and things like that. People would still come and help her with things like that, but they would do it in a way to make her think. We want to keep that brain sharp. Watchtower teaches people to not think. And they do it in a manner where over time, that person completely loses the ability to determine what is a ridiculous concept and what is more probable to be true, right? Because there isn't anybody, I could literally just, as a social experiment, walk down the street and ask anybody, after a religion falsely predicts the end of the world, is there a chance that you would stay there thinking that they're somehow telling the truth now? Most people would say no. Most people would say, okay, well, that religion got the money that they were going to get, and all those people were about to leave. With Watchtower, it is not the case. With Watchtower, you could show them the magazines where things were falsely predicted. You could show them the magazines where Watchtower was teaching things that were flat out wrong. And they'll just say, oh, that's old light. Meaning all of a sudden now everything is reliable for no real reason at all. It's just reliable now. For no real thought process behind it. How do you know it's reliable now? Because they falsely predicted 1975, and then after that, still falsely predicted the generation of 1914 wouldn't pass away. Like, they were still off after being so wrong with 1975. How do you know a group that has proven they are not reliable? How do you know they're reliable? They're not capable. What I try to do are like mental exercises. where I may have relatives that are in that cult, and I ask them questions to get them to think. It's trying to get them to exercise that mental ability that needs exercise and needs development to remain sharp. So for me, what I try to do, a lot of us woke up when we saw pure ridiculousness. When I went to Bethel and I saw for a fact that the Jehovah's Witness organization is no better than any other organization, any and everything that goes on in the world goes on at Bethel. The sexual stuff, the racial stuff, all the all the things that are going on right now. In America, there's still racial things going on. That's still a point of debate. Is there racism in America and what have you? Well, the interesting thing is Jehovah's Witnesses are not separate from that. They say that they're separate from the world when they're not. There's racism at Bethel. There's quote unquote men and women that will cheat on each other in the world. There's guys that will jump all over these women that come on tours, and they're married at Bethel. Everything stealing, somebody stole some of my stuff at Bethel, and I found it in their, in their possession. Like, stuff came up missing and I didn't know where it was. And then I find it in their stuff. How did it get there? I didn't put it there. They went in my stuff and got something and thought, well, I'll just keep this. It was one of the things was music. There was some music that I had. And I had that stuff put away because I would listen to it in the car. Well, somebody went in my closet, got the music out of my closet, and put it in a container where they kept their music. I could go on and on about the violence, people fighting. All the stuff that goes on in the world goes on at Bethel. All the stuff that goes on in the quote-unquote world is going on somewhere in these congregations with men trying to have sex with kids or touch kids or do stuff like that. Once I saw that, it's common sense that they're not telling the truth when they're talking about Bethel being the focal point of God's spirit. It can't be true based off the behavior of the people. It can't be true based off the behavior of the organization willing to take advantage of people for free labor. Common sense stuff that I saw at Bethel started the waking up process. It started that engine in the brain that we've developed from first grade on up until now. It started that engine to working, and eventually I figured it out. Now, it could take time for some of your relatives, just like it took me some time. But we want to try to be patient. We want to try to be patient like we would be patient with the first grader, because I'm telling you, the Jehovah's Witness, the brain is a complex thing, right? There is a part of the brain that does problem solving. There's a part of the brain that distinguishes, are you telling me the truth or are you lying to me? That part with Jehovah's Witnesses has been significantly weakened to the point where you got to present information to them the same way you would present it to a 5-year-old. Slowly. So with people, what I try to do is almost mental exercises. Get them used to looking up information. Give them some easy stuff to look up. They look it up. Oh, it's easy. Oh, they start to like that. Looking up little bits of information. And then gradually make it harder. You know, a lot of Watchtower teaching is not in the Bible. So all the stuff about Jesus being Michael, you know, have them look that up. All the overlapping generations, have them look that up and explain that from the Bible. And ease your way up to it as their brains slowly start the process of being able to problem solve, figure out, and learn. Right? That's what we have to do. There are some people that are going to wake up because their minds are still sharp. But there are a lot of people that have been in that organization. It took years for our minds to get to the point where it's sharp as it is now today. Right? We had to go through kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Like it took over 10 years for our minds to get from first grader thought to where it is now. Well, there are Jehovah's Witnesses that have been in Watchtower's cult, that mind control cult, for that long. For over 10 years, long enough for it to have degraded that mental capacity to problem solve and figure out if a person's telling the truth or lying, or if it's even probable that what they're saying is true. That ability, just like it's taken over 10 years for it to develop to where it is sharp, where it is with a lot of us, Watchtower has taken 10 plus years for a lot of our relatives to degrade it back to the level where they are virtually not using it at all. They're not using that part of their brain at all. All they do is read a Watchtower and whatever's in there is true. They don't use their brain at all. The concept is whatever Watchtower says is true. And you don't listen to anything anybody else says, which means you never have to use the part of your brain that distinguishes truth from false. Watchtower says we'll do that for you. We'll distinguish truth from false. You won't have to problem solve or think in regards to religion at all. At all. Studying for a Jehovah's Witness is doing nothing but reading a Watchtower publication and getting the answer out of it. That's all that is. That's not doing any real research. Most Jehovah's Witnesses wouldn't even know how to do any real research. So that's what we have to do. We have to find a way to wake people up, but do it mindfully, that the person you're trying to wake up, they're not as sharp as you are. As soon as you say 1975 and you show them stay alive till 75, as soon as you show them, hey, there was this book called Millions Now Living Will Never Die, and they're all dead now. Bam, immediately in our brains, the everything that is sharper, it's oiled well. In their brains, they don't even use it at all, right? So it may take even more time. So we want to ease on in, exercise our relatives' ability to problem solve, and wake them up slowly and gradually from Watchtower's mind control falsehoods. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. X Wallkill Bethelite signing out.